And the floor is open for the questions. If there's any question in the panelists, if not. Okay, let me read the questions. So Ali Rafi is asking Kyla, thank you so much for your beautiful presentation. Also, he's asking, if I may, I would like to ask a question about the illuminators. Have you encountered with notion of the name of illuminators in colophons as well as in marginal notes or even other parts of the manuscripts you've examined?
Thank you for the question and for your very kind comments as well. Yeah, illuminators, obviously, they're not named as often as scribes are. The way that they're named can sometimes depend on whether they are also the scribe. Generally speaking, in examples that I've seen, they're often, you know that they're the illuminator because of the phrase, the habahu, you know, like they gilded it essentially. So sometimes you'll see katabahu wa dhahabahu, blah 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 blah. So that's the most common, the dhahaba root. That's the most common that we see, and then sometimes you'll see the title mudahib as well, you know, gilder, I guess. The other root that I've seen is zayanahu. That's not as common. In terms of, as I said, if they're also the scribe, then often it's written just in the colophon with all of the other information. Sometimes if you have a colophon that is very heavily decorated, the name of the illuminator can sometimes be incorporated into the design of the colophon in some way. So for as an example, this is not actually in Persia, but in Anatolia, you have a panel which has text in the middle written by the scribe, and then on the top and bottom in the decorated panels, you have the calligrapher who signed his name in the decorated panels. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Thank you. Next question is for Ilse. Nicoletta is asking, thank you, Ilse, for such a thorough presentation. And she is asking, among all these richly illuminated and illustrated manuscripts, where would you place the Brenmar Hamse, which seems to have been cannibalized by Ibrahim after the demise of Iskandar, as from its attribution? It looks a rather bizarre addition in terms of artistic quality.
Yeah, thank you, Nicoletta. So sorry I cannot see you. It would be great to see you again. May I share my screen to answer this question? Cool.
Yes, please do.
I hope this is the correct one. Right. Yeah. So the I've seen the Bryn Mawr manuscript only once, and it's definitely restored, and a lot happened to the manuscript. So what I think we have here is the left hand of kind of two facing dedications in these roundels, which in fact is a very Iskandari way of doing things, but it has, we have seen it in the very beginning of Ibrahim. There were many ways of doing things like in Iskandar. I think the dedication is genuinely for Ibrahim, as the wording is very much the same as in the other Shamsas for him, and definitely different from what happened to Iskandar. And I very much understand Yael Rise if she says, well, some paintings look like they are inspired by Ibrahim. I very much think that is the case. But basically, I have not found enough convincing evidence in the manuscript itself to suggest it was actually an Iskandari manuscript. It's all in this blue and gold floral style, and we do not see any Jalayirid inspiration, which seems to be the case because the previously Jalayirid people or illuminators already went to, or at some point went to Herat, as I think Kayla's presentation also showed. So these are the next pages where we also have this only blue and gold floral style. And You see, it's a very tiny manuscript. Some of the illustrations are much more Ibrahim and less Iskandar. So although it's the same scribe as the person who was active during Iskandar, I lean towards saying this really is and was produced as an Ibrahim manuscript. Yeah, that was it.
Thank you. The next question is for Ali. Domenico is asking, Dr. Chaperon, thank you for your brilliant presentation. And how do you compare this specific editorial operation with the edition of Hafiz's Divan, compiled in 1501 by Morvarid and dedicated to Prince Feridun bin Sultan Mirza Bayghara, and allegedly based on 500 manuscripts? It would be interesting to compare the introductions with which both Timurid editors presented their collections.
Well, thank you, Domenico. It's a great question. Of course, I don't know the answer completely, but I can tell that 500 manuscripts look a bit weird. And when you look at the Ibn Bayghara's manuscript, they kind of swept all difficulties under the carpet. They made a manuscript. Of course, they tried to assemble those all the attributed works attributed to Hafiz in one volume, but they didn't pay attention too much to accuracies and different variants. And of course, it deserves a closer look and careful investigation for its own rights. And it would be great, in fact, in terms of the preface, which is different from what Muhammad Golandam once wrote, and it had its own debates in last years, in fact.
Thank you. Laura Parodi is asking a question from Ilse. Have you tried transmitted light on the modified frontispiece? It might yield further information. She also adds another comment, which was also my comment and my question. I'm also wondering if you feel confident that the pasted Shamsa is authentic, especially in light of other manufactured attributions to Timurid ateliers. Killian Overton recently published one. I have not seen this particular manuscript, but from the pictures you showed, the irregular outline of the circle looks a bit crude. Sorry. Yes, Ilse.
Thank you. May I share my screen again? Let me have a look. This is. Yes, I did try transmitted light, and unfortunately, there was not too much I could see there. I think that the kind of white or the light you see here that comes through from the border of the pasted Shamsa. What I was aiming to see, I did infrared with another manuscript, which is dedicated to someone else, and found a dedication to Iskandar underneath it. So that was what I was trying to find, where it was coming from. I didn't find it, and then, as I already showed to you, sorry, now I have to go back. But basically, I found that these are really different pieces, and everything was pasted on top of it. Do I think it is? So the manuscript you are referring to is the St. Andrew's Quran, which is now dedicated to the Timurid Abu Sa'id, the middle of the 15th century, but which Killian Overton demonstrated was early Safavid. I don't think this is the case of a manuscript that's totally different and then kind of predated. So it's not a Safavid manuscript predated to the Timurids. I think I have really enough evidence, as I tried to show you in everything, in the page layout, in the illustration, or in the illumination, in the calligraphy, the name of the calligrapher, etc., to demonstrate that this is a Shirazi manuscript, as the colophon says, produced there in 1420. I'm also confident that this outer border is Iskandar. and what I kind of try to argue for this is that the wording of the interior is all Baysunghur. Why it looks so crude, I think, is because at a later point, until the 17th century, this kind of middle part or the interior border around the dedication was added on top of it. So why it looks so crude here in the middle, and also the way I was cutting it out. I lost where I have it. Yeah, here. So here I cut in Photoshop across the red line or the orange line around it, which is due to the restoration, I think, and the whole cutting and pasting. Definitely the dedication was bigger as well, maybe also lobed, as is typical under Baysunghur, and I think that's why it, because of the restoration, it looks so crude and brutal. So we are at least looking at 3 different time periods here, but I don't think we are looking at something that was made at once to kind of predate the manuscript.
Thank you. So you did not suspect that there was a recent forgery on that, like by splitting the folios and pasting one of those cut shamsas from the Baysunghur manuscript, taking out the middle of it, put it there, adding something in really crude hand in the middle, and compiling something in, I don't know, 19th century, maybe?
19th century, maybe before it was sold to
I
Berlin.
can't remember the provenance of the manuscript, but I remember that when I examined that, I noticed those creases where the shamsa is pasted on the paper. You see that it shows.
So there is
there are
this folding going on.
Yes.
Yeah, that might be a case that there was a dedication to Iskandar. I think the outer border is Iskandar, or that maybe an Iskandar manuscript was cannibalized and a Baysunghur manuscript. On the other hand, if you are living in Afghanistan in 1925 and you have a manuscript dedicated to Iskandar and a manuscript dedicated to Baysunghur, I would sell those and not compile it.
Absolutely.
No, I don't think that's very likely.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I think that was the end of questions. I hope I haven't missed anything. Thank you very much indeed for being with us today. Please join us tomorrow with some more exciting discussions.